Welcome back. This is Mags on Media. Now, we know that Brazilians are football fanatics, but did you know that the nation has the world's highest rate of football-related deaths? 144 violent fights around stadiums, resulting in 19 deaths in 2018. So in response, the Leo Burnett advertising agency in that country teaming up with a local football club for an initiative to help protect fans as they leave stadiums after a match. It's called the camouflage jersey, which essentially hides the emblem of the club that fans support to help avoid conflict with rival supporters. All right, I want to stay with sport, and the data analytics company Nielson Sport recently releasing a commercial trends report that outlines key developments in sport for rights holders and brands. Very apt as we approach the cricket and the rugby World Cups this year. Now, the company's Kelvin Watt says that the clutter and the complexity of the sector makes it what he terms a buyer's market at the moment, with a greater onus on rights holders to provide compelling and unique content to ensure relevance. Kelvin, a very warm welcome back to you. It's been a while since we last saw you. What do you mean by a buyer's market?
Well, I think, just what's happened is just so much content that we're seeing in the sports industry, but also in the entertainment industry. And really what we've seen from a sponsor's perspective these days is they just have so much opportunity to buy properties and to spend money. And we've also seen them pull back in terms of some of the spending that they're doing. So it's really become very tough for rights owners in the space to sell their sponsorship. And so it's very much become a buyer's market in terms of...
Yeah, I buy that argument to an extent. But isn't it all about the big five? Football, cricket, rugby, golf, and whatever, tennis.
Well, absolutely. And I think what you've highlighted is exactly what's happened. Is we've seen the really big stuff, whether that's in the US with the NBA or the NFL, whether that's in South Africa with football, to some extent rugby and cricket and other things. We're seeing the big sponsorship deals are in place. Where it's really becoming interesting, and in a South African context, for example, is that middle market, that 2.5–3 million rand to 25 million rand middle market sponsorship. There's just a proliferation of properties that are available.
What sort of properties are we talking about?
We can go anywhere from provincial cricket teams to cycling events, just right across the sports spectrum, to the national rowing teams, to women's sports that are starting to come into the play and starting to demand sponsorship.
But sponsorship demands eyeballs. That's what I'm paying for.
Absolutely.
With the greatest of respect to provincial cricket, and you're looking at a fan, okay?
Yep.
Go Gauteng Lions. Is there value in that, for instance?
Well, absolutely there's value. And I think one of the things that we're seeing in this clutter and complexity is this proliferation of media, the sort of broadcast that we used to, whether that be free-to-air or pay TV, but also the streaming, the OTT operators, the social and digital platforms. And really what we're fighting for at the moment as rights holders is for fans' attention. And in fact, their attention is becoming as valuable as their rands at the moment. Where we were looking for their money, we're now looking just to get fans' attention.
So how do you get my attention?
Absolutely, it's a struggle. Well, I think that's two or three of the big things that we're seeing. One is that the smart rights owners around the world are people who are really starting to understand the data that's coming to them and getting the data that's important to them. We spent a lot of time counting the eyeballs, and what we're starting to see in a lot of the work we're doing with fans around the world is really starting to fundamentally understand their behaviors. What ticks their box? What gets them excited? And the two things that we're seeing there is entertainment value. So people are wanting value for their entertainment. If I'm going to give you my money and spend time with you, I want value back. And that's about innovation with technology and the whole experience of what we're seeing there, whether that be live or on a
So give me an example of where the entertainment value is then works in the favour of both the fan and also the person who's buying that property.
Well, I think technological innovation is really the place where it's starting to get very interesting for us. So those sports that are able to marry the sort of the content that they have, and where they've changed the content for the value of their fans with technological innovation, and then giving them a really significant market opportunity. So if we look in a South African context, through a lot of the fan work that we've done, we've started to understand that South Africa really over-indexes on what we call the connection fans. People who are not deep sportsly interested in sport, but really go along and get involved, whether they watch on TV or go to events because of friends, family and others that go. So we're seeing some very successful stuff like the Cape Town Sevens, the Pink Day at the Wanderers you spoke about, Gauteng Cricket. We talk about the Durban July, the Met, those sort of things which really get connection fans involved. And there's a whole massive ingredients that go into that.
Do you have to incentivize me, Kelvin? Do you have to give me something?
Absolutely. But give you a great experience. Not necessarily give you a free T-shirt and a free drink and a beer, but really experience. What we're seeing specifically with the younger generation, a lot of them are spending a lot of the entertainment time at a Four Ways Farmers Market or a beer and wine festival and various stuff. They want an experience that's much longer, so they don't want to just come to a match for an hour and a half. They want to spend money that's going to give them a 7 or 8 hour experience. They want great food options. They want to see some of the best food that's available. They don't want to just have a beer and maybe a white wine or a red wine. They want sophisticated wine lists. They want gin bars. They want, all those sort of ingredients that need to come in. And it's a thing we're sort of talking about, not only in South Africa, but around the world, as the festivalization of sport.
That youth market is difficult to please, isn't it?
Absolutely, but they're also, a fascinating,
very savvy, though.
Fascinating, savvy market, absolutely, and very clear about what they want, which really makes them easy to please if you just give them what they want.
One of the other trends you point out is something called athlete influencers, but
Yep.
Isn't this just an old concept that's been repackaged?
It's not. What's really changed, and it goes back, I was at a very interesting conference in Singapore last week, and the Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister Iswaran, he spoke about the convergence of technology and content with a very, very savvy and very, very wealthy market that's starting to come in around the world. And I think what's really happened with social and digital media is the influencer now has a direct access to the fan. He no longer needs to go through the club. He no longer needs to go through the broadcaster. So if you think, for example, one of the biggest moves in football last year was Ronaldo moving to Juventus. At the time he moved to Juventus, his social media platforms had 6 times more followers than Juventus, and he had over 100 million more followers than Real Madrid. So he took 100 million people with him, and he brought 6 times the social media platform that Juve as a club had before he got there. So that 100 million odd euros that was being paid for him wasn't to score goals. It was very much about what did he bring with him as an influence and as a direct individual. And we're starting to see, for example, in the States, you're getting Derek Jeter, LeBron James, people like that are starting to own their own media platforms, either investing in...
What about here?
Unfortunately, we're not seeing it enough here, and I think the biggest thing right now is we probably just don't have an athlete who's big enough to command not only a South African but a global presence. And right now that's probably something that we're lacking in this marketplace. But I think we'll start to see it coming through in a bigger way. Should we launch somebody like a Rabada in the world of cricket, a big World Cup, we win out of something like that. I think you could see some interesting moves with a guy like that who just goes right across the different fan bases and also starting to pick up a significant global following.
Come and visit us again. Kelvin Watt, thank you very much indeed, Managing Director at Nielson Sports. Now, coming up on the programme, a look at the most admired brands in Africa and how this ad became a viral sensation in India.